This is my hobby, the greatest hobby. Hobbyist here, we are back at it again with our Talisman character exploration guide. And previously, we have covered the underrated Fire Wizard and how his Pyroblast is a very effective tool inside of the Dragon expansion. Now, let us get on towards the next character inside the Dragon expansion. The character that we're going to be covering is a fierce fortune seeker who has perfected the dangerous art of tracking and slaying dragons to claim their hoards and collect rewards from terrified villagers. Indeed, this is the Dragon Hunter. Let's go ahead and get into the Dragon Hunter's card and see what it is that he's all about. As we can see from the first bits of stats, he's got a strength of 3 and a craft of 3. So he's a pretty balanced character straight out the get-go in comparison to the more lopsided or craft or strength-based specialists that we've covered in the past. So, as we can see here, we've got this dragon logo, which simply is the symbol of the dragon expansion. So if you're not particularly interested in playing with the dragon expansion, and you're trying to separate it from the other components that you may choose to use or to store away for any future games, then the dragon symbol is definitely the logo that you want to be on the lookout for, as it makes things just way easier when it comes to simplifying it for you. But moving forward, the rest of the stats of the Dragon Hunter, you can see that he's got a Fate of 2, a Life of 4, he is a neutral character, and he starts in the Ruins. So from a strategic standpoint inside of the Dragon expansion, this doesn't really serve any function. Of course, if you're thinking along the big picture, then you'll notice that the Dragon Hunter is quite literally right in front of where the dungeon expansion would start. In fact, you have to cross into the ruins in order to go through the dungeon entrance. So, if the dungeon is an area that you want to visit for any particular reason, then this is a good place and a good character to have just for this starting position. So let's go ahead and get into the rest of the Dragon Hunter, as we can see that he's got 3 character abilities. The first of which says, you begin the game with 1 axe from the purchase stack. So if you remember back in our Totem Warrior video, we talked about the functions of this axe here, how it is a weapon, and it also serves the purpose of being able to make travel into the middle region a lot easier. And it also makes sense because the character is literally carrying an axe. So it would make the most sense that he start out with one. So for this next character ability, things are a little bit more interesting. Instead of rolling a die for movement, you may move to the closest dragon on another space in your region. If 2 or more dragons are an equal distance away, you choose which dragon you move to. So, from the sounds of things, he has himself a little bit of a limited teleportation ability based on his region, and how the Dragon Hunter is going to be wanting to kill dragons. And that makes the most sense, it's in his persona. But how is he able to kill these dragons per se? Because even though it might be nice to be able to reach certain dragons, especially if dragons are going to be guarding certain objects, certain followers, certain places that may prove fruitful to you, how would you be able to get past them? Well, based on this third ability, it says, whenever you engage an enemy in battle, you may make a death blow. Roll 2 dice and add them together to determine your attack roll. If you make a death blow and roll doubles, you are automatically defeated regardless of your attack score. Oh boy. So as we can see with the Dragon Hunter, he's got a very powerful attack ability, but it's got a huge risk when it comes to backfiring. From a statistic standpoint, there's always going to be a 50-50 chance that you're going to roll doubles. That's just the way that it goes. So it also stated how this was going to focus more so in battle and not so much with psychic combat. Meaning that the Dragon Hunter is going to more so specialize in Varthrax's deck, because Varthrax almost has nothing but strength-based items and strength-based enemies to fight, and dragons, of course. So he's going to be the deck that you're going to want to be pulling the most from in comparison to the others. Grillipus you want to stay away from as much as possible, because you almost have nothing to defend yourself there. And Catarus is a mixed bag. Sometimes you'll find those strength dragons and strength cultists, sometimes you'll find the craft ones. It's always a 50-50 when it comes to him. But when it comes to these abilities, it definitely has some sort of role when you get towards the end game. And I'll show you guys what that looks like in both of the inner regions. This is the Dragon Realm. And as we mentioned inside of the Dragon tutorial video that I put out a while back, that this inner region, in comparison to the other inner region, is going to be a lot easier in comparison, as this inner region is simply more dragon themed and is more familiar to players who may or may not be as experienced with trying to incorporate different expansions. So, with the Dragon Realms, you're simply more so focused on the scales that you possess and or are on the Draconic Lords cards, and on which path that you want to take in order to make it to the Crown of Command. In addition, you are needing a Talisman in order to make it through the Valley of Fire to make it to the top. So, when it comes to the Dragon Hunter and this Death Blow ability, it definitely indicates that he's a very potent character when it comes to fighting. So, it might prove fruitful to go across the Dragonstone Mines and maybe make your way around. But just remember that you might also be running into craft-based things along the way, which is definitely something that you want to stay away from. Whereas if you come across the craft route, across the crypt, then you're going to be facing more strength-based things before you make it to the Valley of Fire to make it to the top. In that case, you just might need to build your craft up more, and then maybe use Death Blow when you get to the end here. And with Death Blow, it especially becomes more important inside of the Dragon Tower, because there's a lot more components inside of that particular inner region in comparison to this one. Inside of the Dragon Tower, this is a completely different story, because the Dragon Tower, while it does not require a Talisman to make it to the top, is entirely focused on whoever the current Dragon King is. And that is going to be the cards that you're going to be pulling on your trek to the top. So, if Barthrax is king, or Catarus is king, then you have a far greater chance of making it to the top, in comparison if Grillipus is king. In fact, if Grillipus is king, you're going to have a way more difficult time making it to the top, because the Dragon Hunter simply doesn't specialize in being able to take on any characters or any dragons that are going to be craft-based and focus on psychic combat. So, if you're able to especially get Barthrax when you make it to the top, you're going to have a lot easier for time, and you're going to be able to use Death Blow more frequently, which may or may not be able to help you out. Because you do got to remember this, when it comes to using Death Blow, the highest that you can possibly roll to add on to your attack score without failing entirely is an 11. If you're able to roll 11 on top of whatever it is you roll, it's not the same as a character who can use the flail, roll any doubles, and not suffer any consequences. So that is definitely something else to keep in mind when it comes to strategizing with the Dragon Hunter, not just on the planes of what the Dragon expansion has to offer, but when you're expanding out towards like the city, or if you're going to the dungeon, or if you're trying to harvest destinies inside the woodlands, or take any of the relics from the Eagle King. You have a lot more open to you when it comes towards that regard than you do inside of just the Dragon expansion alone. Because inside of just the Dragon expansion, Grillipus is the only thing that you really need to avoid. Overall, what do I think of the Dragon Hunter? I think he's a really good character when it comes to facing anything with strength. He's going to be the best battle specialist when it comes to the characters that we've compared to so far, but when it comes to craft and spells, he doesn't do very well. So that is definitely something that you gotta keep in mind when it comes to picking if the Dragon Hunter is going to be the character of your choice. Or if you happen to respawn as the Dragon Hunter, maybe you died as a previous character, and this was the character that came up next. Well then, being able to use those strengths and weaknesses could be the difference between you defeating whoever the Dragon King is, or meeting in the other alternate ending conditions that are inside of the Dragon expansion. But other than that, this concludes the Dragon Hunter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.